I'm going to try to make this session as interactive as possible because I don't like to hear myself talk the whole time. Would love to interact and hear from you guys as well. So feel free to volunteer, or if no one volunteers, I will call on you at some point. Just FYI. Cool. Now I'm going to share screen. Great. So I'll just share a quick intro about myself. I'm an I/ENTJ. In the morning, I can't talk to people. And then after 8 p.m., I can't talk to people. But in between, I'm fine. I like cooking. So I've been cooking a lot of different Chinese dishes. And I've been playing a lot of tennis. I picked up tennis during COVID because of social distancing. And now I'm in love with it. So today, the agenda is as follows. First, I'll share my story about how I became a product marketer. Then I'll share what product marketing is, and then the difference between PM and PMM, as well as the difference between marketing and product marketing. Then I'll go over three very short case studies on what a PMM does. And that's where I'll interact with you all. And then we'll end with a questions and answer session. Great. Quick ask. Yeah, just remember this after the call, but just search me up if you want to learn more about product marketing. You can just search Henry Wang PMM, and then you can subscribe if you want. Great. So intro. So how did I become a product marketer? So so actually, before I go into the story, some context on me. I worked at Google for 4 years. Then I worked at 4 different startups for almost 1 to 2 years at each startup. So I would say 10 years in total, including Google. So 6 years at startup, 4 years at Google. And the startups that I worked at, the first startup was Verdigris. That was a 20-person startup. Then I went to a 50-person startup. Then I went to a 200-person startup. And then I went to a 300-person startup. So I've seen the whole range of startups, so can share more about that. And then, like Tyson mentioned, I make YouTube videos. So my story, I went to UCLA. I studied political science and history. I wanted to be a lawyer. Then after graduating from UCLA, I moved to New York City. I worked for city government. I hated the job. And then I said, okay, I need to go to law school. My boss told me, no, go work at a law firm first. See if you actually want to be a lawyer. Worked at a law firm as a paralegal for a year. Hated it. And then that's when I realized, did I go to school for nothing? I went to school to study poli-sci and history. Now I'm not going to use it. But thankfully, there are books out there. So I picked up a book called Case Interview Secrets. It's for consulting. Then I picked up another book on investment banking. I was thinking, hey, maybe I can self-study and get into banking or consulting. I ended up interviewing at Deloitte and Goldman. And then out of nowhere, my friend at Google said, hey, why don't you interview at Google in a policy division? Because it was related to what I was doing before. So I said, sure, why not? I interviewed at Google, ended up getting the job. So when I came to Google, my thinking was I didn't want to stay in policy forever. So I picked up a 20% project on the side. And that 20% project was with product marketing. And then after 2 years of doing product marketing on the side, including my full-time job in policy within Google, I transitioned full-time into product marketing at Google. And this is where I ended up on a product called AdMob. And I really loved the job because it was creative, strategic, and very customer-facing. So that's a short story about how I ended up in product marketing. You'll see this in many different PMM's background. It's never a clear-cut path. It's always a windy road to product marketing. So here, let's just start by saying, what is product marketing? Product marketing, in its simplest terms, is these 3 things: know the user, know the magic, and connect the two. So just to give you some context, back then when the tech scene was just getting started, you probably all heard of the saying, build and they will come. right? Meaning that if you just build a product, customers will show up. But as more startups, more companies started building tech products, it's now the reverse. You need to know the customer first before you build anything. Because if you don't know who your customers are, don't know the problem that you're trying to solve, you might end up building a product that no one uses. And that's why product marketing is so important. So in simplest term, right, know the user, understand your customers, what their pain points are, what they care about, know the magic, know what your product does and how they help the customer. And then you connect the two dots, right? How do you connect the customer to the product? Through a story. In short, product marketing is storytelling. I'll pause here. Now, the next question I hear a lot is, what's the difference between marketing and product marketing? Does anyone want to raise their hand and take a guess? I don't know if I can see the hand raised functionality. Cool. Great. This is the best part where I get to call on people. Aiden, what do you think?
Sure, I'll give it my best shot. I think product marketing is a subset within marketing where you're focused specifically on developing a product. And like you mentioned, starting with your customers, and rather than maybe brand marketing, where there's an overall brand and story and identity that you're just trying to tell and connect, you're really identifying like specific pain points that customers are experiencing and working backwards from there to what the product might be and then connecting those two. So in my mind, it's a little more focused than maybe brand marketing, which is a bit more abstract overall. But I'll let you tell me how accurate that is.
Yeah, that's a great answer, Aiden. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think absolutely people say marketing is the umbrella, product marketing is a subset of that umbrella. Maybe the way I define it is a little different. I'm not saying that's a right answer. I think your answer is correct, and my answer is just a little different. Let me go ahead and share my definition. So my definition for product marketing is that there's a word product in front of marketing, right? So that's the main difference. And the reason for that difference is because marketing, when you think about marketing in general, is usually about how do you drive user adoption for an established product. For example, Coca-Cola, right? It's the same drink, same ingredients for the past however many years. And the only difference is how you market that Coca-Cola. It might be a different can. It might be a different brand campaign that's running behind it, but the product itself is the same. Whereas product marketing, the product is always changing. That's why there's the word product in front of marketing, because the product is always changing. You have to think about how do you market this product that's always evolving. So for example, Gmail, right? If you think about when Gmail launched in 2004, it was just an email service. But as the years go by, there's a bunch of new features or capabilities that's added to Gmail. So in 2006, you can use calendar and chat within Gmail. In 2008, you have the forgot attachment detector. 2010, you have different inbox folders, right? And then in 2012, you have Google Hangouts where you can do a video call. So all of these are features that change the product. So as a product marketer, you're thinking about how do we not only market the product, but also the new features. And then the other reason why product is in front of marketing is that product marketing works super closely with the product team. Cool. Next is product manager versus product marketing manager. And I'll just call on someone. Maria, what do you think is the difference between a PM and a PMM?
Hi. A PM will try to spot a problem and develop the product, but not necessarily with the focus on the consumer, but more focus on the product itself, like what features can the product have. And then the PMM will have like all of this focus on the customer, as you mentioned, and it will be more like what does the product need so that the customer can use it. And also I think that PMM are more focused also on the, once you have the product, like how to transmit that and the go-to-market strategy of the product itself.
Amazing. It feels like you wrote this part of the deck already. So thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Maria's on point. So I'll keep it short. PM, they're focused on building the product. They spend most of their time working with engineers and product designers to develop the product vision and execute on the product. And a lot of this requires a strong product sense, project management, and influence skills. Whereas the PMM is more focused on marketing the product, like Maria said, bringing that product to the market. And this requires very strong communication skills, project management, and creativity. So if you think about it, PM is more internal facing, PMM is more external facing. But that's not to say they don't do the other as well, right? PM still need to talk to customers. PMM still needs to understand what's going on the engineering side. So if you like building new products, be a PM. And if you like marketing new products, be a PMM. So what do PMMs do? PMMs usually, this is the best graphic I can think of, a very simple one, right? PMM sits between product, sales, and marketing. And this is how they work with each of them. With the product team is helping them launch new products. Sales is helping them with sales enablement. And marketing is helping them drive thought leadership. When it comes to product launches, some of the things that you might be doing as a PMM will be one, building out customer personas, developing competitive matrix. This way you have the context on why you're doing what you're doing, right? You need to know the why for the customer, and you need to know the why in terms of the competition. How are you going to be different? Then you'll develop positioning and messaging and go-to-market for your product. Then you also need to make sure you communicate that internally within the company so everyone is on the same page. So that's all the internal work. The external work, you're going to be delivering on a lot of different marketing assets. So for example, press release, blog posts, customer comms like email comms, social, and partnerships. So a lot of it is strategy, internal, external is execution. So let's do a product launch example. Again, remember, product marketing is starting with the customer, then the product, then the story, right? So this is the first case study we'll do. So I used to work at a company called Springboard. Springboard is an ed tech startup. We have about 100 people, and we help career switchers break into new industries through online courses. So we have online courses in UX design, data science, and engineering. This is the problem, though. The problem is that the market is super saturated, right? There's a bunch of different other alternatives. You have Udemy, Coursera, and Udacity. The question to me when I was a PMM was, how do we differentiate Springboard from all of these market leaders and competitors? So I'll just ask this question to someone here. And again, I'm not looking for the right answer. I'm just looking for how you think. So if you were a PMM in this situation, how would you go about approaching this problem? So I'll ask Johnny.
Yeah, so you mentioned that Springboard is a way for people to pivot, so maybe market on that aspect of it. While Udemy, Coursera, and Udacity might be focused on continuing that education, Springboard is more for pivoting into a different career, so maybe capitalize on that and advertise through different websites, maybe through MBA programs, stuff like that.
Nice. So Johnny said maybe focus on a different customer segment, whereas Udemy might be focused on for everyone, Coursera might be for continuing education, Springboard would be for career switchers. Awesome. I'll ask for one more volunteer. I'll ask Sophia Cow. Again, just taking a step back, how would you approach this? Yeah.
Yes, I'm also thinking about maybe we can also take a dive into the features. So maybe there's like a feature that can actually help Springboard to be like different stand out compared to other like platforms. So I think we can do like marketing strategies, and we emphasize what are the difference that we have and maybe other platforms don't have, and we can do the marketing from there.
Awesome. So Sophia said, focus on the different features and market those as unique differentiators. Awesome. I think both Johnny and Sophia, you both have really good points, which I'll show you how they were executed later. But just to give the answer to this, the way I took the approach to this is classic product marketing. Start with the customer, find out what are some unmet needs on their side that they're not getting from Udemy, Coursera, and Udacity, and then go from there. For example, when we talk to students who are taking Udemy, Coursera, and Udacity, when I talk to those students, the three biggest pain points that they came out with were these three. One, they were really good at signing up for online courses during the new year, but never finishing them because people procrastinate and they're just not motivated, right? They might be motivated for a little bit, but they never finish the course. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that they felt like all of these courses taught them a lot about theory, but not practical experience that they can actually execute on. So that was another pain point. Like, how do I learn skills that I can actually use versus just knowledge? And then the last pain point was outcomes. So what I mean by this is that students were able to get fancy certificates from Udacity, Udemy, and Coursera, but those certificates don't mean much until they get a job. So what they actually want is a job. The certificate is a stepping stone to a job. So the way we took this information to position Springboard is that we thought about, okay, how can we solve each of these pain points with specific value props or features that we offer. For example, accountability, we gave every student a mentor, a student advisor, and as well a cohort of peers that they also go through the course with. So now they have a community to keep them accountable. For the experience, we offered capstone projects so they can actually do projects instead of just learning new knowledge. So they can actually apply that knowledge learned to a project, and that project turns into a portfolio. And then finally, outcomes. We said, hey, if you graduate from Springboard, we guarantee that you'll get a job within 6 months. If you don't get a job, we give you your money back. So that was another differentiator. And overall positioning is that we position Springboard as a practical alternative to all of these online course platforms. And all of this resulted in this new slogan that I came up with, because not many people know Springboard. So the best way to describe Springboard is, hey, Udacity. So we anchor on a well-known brand, and we say Udacity with a job guarantee. So people knew exactly what we did. And what did this translate in terms of PMM work? We changed all of our messaging. We changed our homepage. And we had this new header message that says, learn online with a job guarantee. And this actually doubled our website conversion rates. So people who landed on our websites are now two times more likely to apply or to submit an application. So that is how product marketing works, right? You start with the customer and then you figure out what's the product you want to sell. So the second thing that PMMs do is sales enablement. This is mainly popular with B2B companies. So a lot of the work here is very similar, right? They do customer personas, competitive battle cards. So how can we be better than our competitors? What are the talking points? Sales training, so helping to train the sales teams and giving the sales team resources so they can better pitch your solution. So that is all of the internal strategy work, and the external is manifested through pitch decks, one-pagers, case studies, and demo videos. So now I'll share like a sales enablement case study. So I worked at a company called Liftoff. We're an ad tech company. We help app marketers market their apps. So for example, think performance marketing for mobile apps. So maybe a game that you're all familiar with is like Clash of Clans, right? They want to acquire mobile app users. They would come to Liftoff. We would take their ad spend and then help them acquire users. And we do that through machine learning and creatives. So one big customer question that we get all the time is from customers that are trying to buy a solution to help them market their app is what makes your machine learning better? And this was a big question that the sales team was getting, and they came to me and they said, hey, how do we answer this question? Because we don't really have an answer for this, and everyone says the same thing about their machine learning. So maybe I'll call on Gary Jin. If you're a PMM, how would you, again, not looking for the right answer, like how would you think about approaching this problem?
Maybe start some interviews with the insiders to find out what they are looking for the machine learning improvement, or you have some focus group to dig deeper into some customer needs, like the previous case talking about.
Got it. Okay, so Gary said maybe start with your ML engineers and then also do focus groups to figure out what is it that they really want, why they want to know about machine learning, and what can you say about machine learning. Great. I'll call on one more person. How about Eileen Giorgini?
Hi, sorry. Yeah, I think I would also go back to understand what these customers are doing, like what they are marketing and what they're looking for, like talking to them and looking also into competitors, as we mentioned before. So I think I would do that as well.
Got it. So looking at competitors and talking to your customers. So yeah, Eileen and Gary, yeah, both great answers. I think you'll see how this is manifested as well. So in addition to starting with the customer, I think, that's the first big takeaway we got from the first case study. The second thing that a lot of PMMs need to do is context setting. So context, you can focus on one problem, but if you don't give it enough context, you don't know why that problem is a big problem in the first place. So this is actually a very hard challenge that I had to face. But what I did was, yes, I looked at my competitors. Everyone talks about machine learning, and they stay in that realm. They stay, hey, we're just going to talk about deep neural network, large language learning models, right? All of these fancy terms that either go over the customer's head or something that all customers hear about. So how do we differentiate, or how do we create more context around machine learning? This is what I found, was that no one actually talks about the data that goes into machine learning. Because at the end of the day, if machine learning is good, it needs to be fed good data, right? If the data is faulty or inaccurate, then you're going to have bad machine learning models. So the conclusion that I came to was that machine learning, how good it is, actually depends on the data. And since no one was talking about the data that's being fed into machine learning, let Liftoff be the first ones to talk about it so that we educate our customers, and then our customers can also see how we're different when we talk about the different features about how we make the machine learning learn from good data. So the takeaway was that unbiased machine learning scales performance. You need the data to be comprehensive, clean, and accurate. And this translated into this slide, which is find all of the best users for your app. And this really depends on these three core features to ensure that the data that's feeding the machine learning is comprehensive, clean, and accurate. So I won't go into too much detail on this slide because this only makes sense to an app marketer. But yeah, that is the gist of how we were able to answer that question. What makes your ML different? Let's go one level deeper, talk about the data. And this led to 25% better pitch to conversion rates. We were able to close more customers when they ask this question. And then the last part that product marketing managers do is thought leadership. And this is actually the most fun or creative aspect of the work. So you're working with them to figure out ways how to establish yourself as an industry leader and generate awareness and demand. And a lot of the internal work here is project briefs, outlines, so more strategy. External manifestation would be ebooks, white papers, infographics, and you might do some speaking engagement as a PMM. So you might be giving talks at industry events. So a product that I worked on was AdMob. AdMob is a Google product. It helps app developers monetize their apps with in-app ads. And we were the market leader at the time. Most app developers know about AdMob. The question became, how do we scale AdMob even more? So think about this. You're working for a company that's already the market leader in that space. How do you get more market share? Maybe I'll ask two people as well. So first person is Ruben Johnson. How would you get more market share if you're already the market leader?
So maybe you're the market leader because you have an overwhelming advantage in certain segments, but there might still be other segments of the market that you're underperforming in. I think with Google, that's probably a relatively common thing where they lead in a lot of places, but then there's certain users that just stay away from their products and don't trust Google. So maybe I'll try to identify who are the users or what are the segments that have stayed away from Google up till now, and what are their concerns and how could we address them so we could expand even further throughout the market.
Awesome. Great answer, Ruben. Yeah, Ruben said maybe find an underserved segment or a segment that's avoiding Google and how to figure out a way to win that segment. Next, I would like to ask Marie Garza.
Hey, thanks. Great answer, Ruben. It's exactly what I was thinking. But I would also argue that in addition to thinking about segments that we aren't in, like, how are we solving, I think this idea of how do we solve a problem that people don't know exists, maybe if we're thinking about people who use different app developers, maybe like why, what are we missing almost, or what's a new problem that we can fix?
Awesome. Great answer by Marie. Marie says, figure out maybe there's a group of people, maybe there's a problem that people don't know, or a group of people that don't know about the problem. So going after the people who don't know. So that is great. Both answers correct. To the way that we approached it was that, hey, yes, all of the app developers already know us. Maybe some of them don't use us, but we're not going to go after them. But instead, let's think about how do we win the next generation of app developers? Let's get AdMob into the hands of the next generation. What we did was we built out a bunch of resources to help that generation to learn about app development. And then we created a global app building competition for college students who are studying computer science, right? Because college students who are studying CS, they don't really think about building apps. Let's get that into their minds first. And by doing that, we can also potentially acquire the next generation of customers. And yeah, that is what we did. And this manifested into a global app building competition. It cost me about $100,000 in Google money to launch the competition. And we were able to generate $2 million in revenue from that competition. 3,000 teams participated, and they built a bunch of mobile apps, and then they used AdMob to monetize. But yeah, that's what a PMM does in a summary: product launches, sales enablement, and thought leadership. And I know I ended early, but yeah, we can go into the Q&A session. If you want to add me on LinkedIn or have any questions, you can find me here. And then if you want to check out resources, you can go to pmmtrack.com. Tyson, do you want me to just answer the questions, or do you want to ask the question and then I answer?
I think you can just answer the question, but then maybe we can also open the floor to people who have live questions first. And then if not, we go into the question to doc, and then we can stop if there are more questions from the audience.
Great.
Yeah, so go ahead, Aiden. Oh, one by one. Okay,
Thanks,
Aiden first, and then Maria.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Henry, for all the information. It's super valuable. One thing I'm personally curious about is I'm very interested in the creator economy, and I'd be curious to hear from you how you've taken some of your PMM skills and applied them to your journey as a content creator now. And if you've seen it still is helpful in the same way that when you're working for a brand, or if it's a bit of a different playing field. Just curious about that experience, if you'd mind.
Yeah, great question, Aiden. So yeah, I think it definitely has applied to my creator journey. So for context, what I started making YouTube videos because I saw a video at 2 a.m. in the morning. One night, it was a US Marine. He said, you should be waking up at 5 a.m. And then I felt motivated. So I started waking up at 5 a.m. Then I realized I had so much free time in the morning. So I started making YouTube videos because it was something new. And then from there, in the beginning, all my videos were like all over the place. I did vlogs, I did interviews. And then the one video that I thought was the worst created video was about product marketing. And that was the video that people liked. And I'm like, okay, might as well follow my viewers. And lo and behold, the next few videos, I made a few other videos, not many views. The ones on product marketing, people liked it. And then I was like, okay, I should just learn from that because that's what users want, my users specifically. Then I started creating content. And then eventually I thought about, oh, how do I monetize this? And then I thought, hey, maybe I can create some resources. That's what people ask for. And then more recently, I pivoted to advising startups. So a lot of startups have been reaching out and say, hey, Henry, help us figure out product market fit, help us message our product. And that's what I've been doing recently. Yeah.
Okay, Maria, you can go next.
Hi, Henry. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm curious about the example that you gave, the first example that was about the EdTech platform, that you put the text in the webpage that says that with a job guarantee. So I'm curious if that only phrase was the one that generated a 2x engagement, or did you implement other strategies such as, I don't know, customer feedback or actual metric that really boost that slogan that you put?
Yeah, for sure. We didn't just change the slogan and everything got better. So we changed the slogan, we changed the layout, we changed how we talk about different value propositions. We added customer testimonials to back that up, right? Customer testimonials used to be focused on, hey, this course is awesome, very vague. Now it's more specific on, hey, wow, I have a great mentor who keeps me accountable and I'm able to finish the course, right? Another customer testimonial might be around, hey, I got to build a portfolio of projects that I can show off to employers. So it was very relevant to the new positioning. And another thing that we did was we also A/B tested not only the website, but also our paid channels. So we would A/B test our old messaging with the new messaging, and we saw that it converted better, not only on our website, but also on our Facebook and Google ads.
Okay, thank you. And does the target do you make a target customer strategy for these people that really were career switchers? Do you target that on the ads, or you also do A/B testing about that, or not necessarily?
Yeah, so I didn't go into that, but yeah, I also built out customer personas to figure out who are these career switchers for each of our course. So that was also part of it as well. But that would take me too much time to cover.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Sophia, you can go next.
Yeah, thank you, Tyson, and thank you, Henry, for coming and having us on this platform. And I would like to know that because you mentioned you have experience both in like big tech company and also like in the tech startup. So I think lots of us are actually like either pivoting or probably like also thinking about internship or the full-time job. So can you share about like your insights and experience about like how it's different working as a PMM in both the big tech company and also like a startups? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that great question. So yeah, at a big company, I think the main difference between big company and a startup, at a big company, you're going to have a lot more resources. So you're going to be able to make a global impact in that sense, right? Because you have a lot more resources. However, you're going to be very much focused on a specific product and maybe a specific feature of the product. So you're going to be way more specialized. And as a result of that, you're going to build deeper skills in that specialization. So for example, you might be doing customer marketing for large enterprises on AdWords. So like AdWords is a product, a very specific customer segment, a very specific marketing function. So you're going to go pretty narrow, but you're going to have resources. You're going to be able to learn from mentors. You have established professional programs to help you upskill, but your focus area will be pretty narrow. How at a startup, you're going to go broad. They're going to ask you to do everything. So when I was a product marketer, I did product marketing, content marketing, and growth marketing. I also did product management on the side as well because our PM got sick and tired of the engineers. So we actually swapped up for a bit and then he went back to being a PM. But you're going to be doing a lot of things. You're not going to specialize. Even though your external impact might be less, your internal impact will be a lot more because everything you say or do is going to move the company forward. So that's,
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, okay, Arturo, you go.
Okay, thanks, Tyson. Hi, Henry. Quick question on all your experience building products and the sales enablement, finding that product market fit. What have been the both soft skills and technical skills that have helped you the most? And what would be the best advice on developing these skills that you would give to us MBA students who are trying to incur into PMM?
For sales enablement specifically, I think there's a few things. So for sales enablement specifically, I think you need to have a strong customer empathy. So like really seeing things from the customer perspective. Two, you need to be a big picture thinker. So it's easy to get narrowed down or to have a tunnel vision of, hey, I need to build this slide or I need to build this thing for the sales team. You need to have a bigger picture in approaching that. And the best way to do that is by asking the question, why? Like, why is it important? And how does this drive or improve our revenue bottom line? And by how much, right? That way you can prioritize. And then the third thing is being able to influence your stakeholders. And what I mean by this is that you never want to work in a siloed fashion. You want to loop in your stakeholders early on, make them feel like they're part of the brainstorming process. Then you bring your customer insight to steer them in the right direction. And then you create a project brief to set expectations. You say, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is the timeline. And these are the milestones. That way, everyone is on the same page. Everyone can share their inputs. And by the time you're done creating the sales enablement material, you're going to get a lot more adoption because these stakeholders feel like they also helped you build it. So I think that's my biggest takeaway, which is, have customer empathy, bring a customer insight, be strategic, ask the question why, and stakeholder management, which is to loop in your stakeholders early and include them in the process.
I think those are all the live questions we have for now, Henry. If there anyone wants to ask additional questions these 15 minutes, just raise your hand and then we can. But right now we'll go through some of the prepared questions that we collected from you guys. Yeah, Henry, you can go to the Google Doc And some of them might have been answered, but then let me ask you each of them. Henry, how important is it as a PMM to conduct like end user interviews for you as a marketer, and how often do you do it?
Yeah, I already wrote the answers here, but I'll just go over them quickly. Sorry, I meant to remove them. But yeah, it's really important. You need to know the user before you do anything, right? You need to know the why. And I think there's 3 different scenarios that you would do end user interviews. You would do one before you build the product. So you figure out product market fit. Is this a pain point? And are we going to make money from it? So that's one. 2 is as you're building the product, that's where the user can inform you on how they would like to use the product. And 3, after you build the product, so let's say you launch a successful product, how do you improve the product? How do you unlock more capabilities for that customer in terms of their pain point? And then how do you document it? You can document it in 3 different ways. Customer personas, you do it once and you just use that as your foundation. You can do customer calls. This is where you hop on sales calls and you can get a lot of insights there. And then the quantitative side, you can do a quarterly customer feedback survey, which I'm sure you all have heard of. Like you send out a quarterly survey and then you get a high level pulse on how your customers feel about your product.
Right. Yeah, that's great. And I guess there are answers out there, but then you're providing a lot more context behind it, which is great. And we'll also be sending this. Oh, Kevin, you have a question. All right. Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Hi, I just want to say thank you for taking time for us. I know that the PMM's role in feedback to the product team really varies wildly from company to company. And I'm just wondering at Google, how much feedback from PMMs is really taken into account by PMs when deciding what kind of products to build?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's 3 different kinds of feedback you can share with the product team. I'll start with the least effective. The least effective is your opinion. You say, oh, I feel like customers won't like this. They're going to just say, oh, that's here. You know, he says, she says this. There's no substance to back it up. The second level of feedback that I think is stronger is when you share quantitative data. You say, hey, look at the stats. Customers generally feel this way, or customers are not using this feature. I think that's also very powerful. And the most powerful feedback is when you get a live customer in a room, or you record a conversation with a customer, and then you share that recording with the PM. That's when you're gonna move the needle the most, because they'll hear directly from the customer. But yeah, I think, yeah, depending on how much of a relationship you built with your PM counterpart. So for example, I built a really strong relationship with my PM counterpart so that he already trusts me. So for him, level 1 feedback from me was sufficient. So for me to say, hey, I don't think we should do this, that was sufficient, but I had a track record to back that up. But if I was someone new coming into the role, I need to provide data, I need to provide antidotes.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Okay, the next question that we collected from the audience is one that a lot of people, especially in business school, trying to pivot into PM want to ask, which is like part of the case interview. What kind of answers or format do you look for from potential interns or full-time applicants?
Yeah, great question. So in my last role, I was a director. I had a team of 5 PMMs, and I was trying to hire more PMMs. So from a hiring perspective, the way I'm thinking, again, when you interview, think about your hiring manager as the end customer. How do you satisfy their needs? So I'll just share my needs as a hiring manager. I want to find someone who already has the foundational PMM skills. Like they know what PMM is. They know the different skills, at least in theory, so they can execute. They can learn quickly on the job, make an impact. And the shorter the delta is, the better it is for me. The reason I hire someone is so that I can do less work and that person can take some of that work away from me. The last thing I want to do is to hire someone and I have to put in more work to train that person. In that situation, I'd rather not hire anyone. And in terms of the interviews, I look for 2 things. Structure is super important. If you answer a question, I ask a question, you answer the question, make sure that it's organized and it's easy to follow. because that's actually a first indicator of how good of a communicator you are, because that's going to be a reflection of how you communicate via email with your teammates, communicate up, communicate down, communicate to the side. That all of that is going to be manifested when you answer the question in however organized way you can, right? So I think that's the first thing. Be structured, be organized, and make sure your communication is easy to follow. One small tip there is that before you answer the question, it's always good to ask your interviewer to say, hey, just to clarify, this is the question. Great. And give me like a minute to think, because that shows thoughtfulness, right? You're not just going to answer, you're going to think about it, write it down, then present the answer. So I think that's a small tip in the interview process. The second thing that I'm looking for is someone who's strategic. So they don't just rush into the answer. They ask the question, why? And then use that why to create a well thought out plan, clear deliverables, and success metrics. And this is actually a very simple framework. What's the strategy? How are you going to execute? And how are you going to measure? If you can cover these three things in a case study, you would go a long way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I remember you talking about this in your videos as well. And then, all the structure, remembering the signposts. If you're just word souping, even if you have the right answer, you're not communicating in an effective way. And there are these red flags that we always see during the interview. Yeah, Henry, I guess the next question that we have is, how closely and how often do you work with the sales teams to gauge the effect of a marketing campaign for sales and revenue? And what approach do you take to make these improvements if required?
Yeah, great question. I think I covered this briefly in my previous answer to someone's Q&A. But yeah, the way we PMMs work with sales teams is that the best way to do it, from my experience, is that you meet with the sales leads on a quarterly basis. And during that meeting, you want to identify the sales teams as a whole, what are their biggest 2 to 3 challenges, and how do you turn those challenges into 2 to 3 big opportunities, right? So for example, a sales team might say, hey, a big problem that we have is like lead generation. Like, how do we get more of these type of customers? How do we get more of this market? And maybe another big challenge that they have is, hey, we have this big customer objection that is tough for our sales team to handle, right? You prioritize these two from the get-go. That way it sets you up for the rest of the quarter, so that when people come to you and ask you to do other things, you can say, hey, is this more important than these two? If the answer is no, then you can just say, oh, sorry, I don't have time to work on this. I need to focus on the most impactful things, which are these two things. And then in terms of tactically, I think I covered this, right? You loop them in early on, create a project brief, and then you include them in the whole process. And then you also include them when you roll out the new deliverables. And in terms of how you improve on the marketing campaigns, you improve based on market and customer feedback. So for example, if you created a content to generate more leads, you might want to measure like this content versus another content. Is this driving more leads? If it is, how do we create more of this similar content? And in the same way, how customers are responding to new narratives. So narratives are stories to handle customer objections. What part of the story is resonating? What part of the story is still confusing? And iterate on that part.
Yeah, that's great, Henry. They talked a lot about measurement, about success of the product, and stuff like that. But in terms of being a PMM, when we're being evaluated on for a product launch or maybe a marketing campaign, what are these types of key metrics and performance indicators that you or your team would use to evaluate the success of a PMM in your organization?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, 3 metrics. I like to use the rule of 3 because people don't remember more than 3 things. But the 3 things that I think would be a key would be 1, brand perception. This includes, do people know you? And if they do, what's their perception of you? 2 is marketing qualified leads or signups. So marketing qualified leads for a B2B business or direct user signups for a B2C business. And then conversion rates, right? You not only want to get leads and signups, but you also want to convert them into a paying customer. So this includes enterprises that sign a new deal or a free user that is now using your paid product.
Yeah, that's great. I guess not to derail it, but I have a question too. So a lot of first years and also my classmates who are second years are recruiting for both product management and product marketing. And you and I just started off my career as a product marketer, and you're a very veteran PMM. What's your pitch? Why people should choose product marketing over product management?
Oh, wow. Great question. So I've actually done product management for a year. And my pitch is, I honestly can't pitch it. It really depends on your personality, right? Like for me, I like to be customer facing. I like to be in a less stressful environment. And I think PMMs, yeah, you're more customer facing. You get to be more creative and you get to do more storytelling. Whereas a PM, a product manager, it sounds great, but you're actually working with a lot of stakeholders who give you a lot of problems, right? Engineers, they might not listen to you. They want you to convince them. Product designers, they might have a different idea on what things look like. And then you have the sales team that also tell you, you should be building this, right? So I feel the best way my friend at Spotify describes it, he's a senior PM there. He says, as a PM, he feels like he's the toilet where everyone just throws their trash to. And he feels like there's a lot of weight on his shoulders, right? At the same time, though, you do make a big impact in that you're owning the product, you're driving the product. However, the nuance there is that you have to work with a lot of very different people with very different interests. And sometimes even the product that you're trying to build might be directed by leadership and not by you.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that. And I always tell people, like, when you're trying to make a decision whether to recruit for one or the other or both, I'm like, when you're a PM, everyone is waiting for you to finish. When you're a PMM, you're waiting for everyone to finish. Do you like waiting for other people or other people waiting for you? Yeah, I mean, that's all great insights, Henry. I guess we have time for one last question, and regarding like challenges and obstacles. You know, for a product marketer, what kind of challenges or obstacles might they typically encounter on the job, and what tactics or methods are effective for overcoming them?
Yeah, I think the two biggest challenges, like you're always going to be working with stakeholders, right? So the challenge is going to be managing your stakeholders and then also getting their buy-in. So managing, meaning that sometimes this is a unique situation as a PMM, is that the sales team and a product team usually at odds. Sales team, they want to sell a dream. They want their customers to sign the paper and give them money. Product team wants to be more technically accurate. They don't like to lie and deceive people. They perceive salespeople to be deceiving. Salespeople perceive product teams to be boring, right? I can't sell a dream. I don't want to sell this product today. Product team says, no, you can't be selling something we don't already have. So as a PMM, you have to be the intermediary and bring both parties to an agreement, right? You might say, hey, we can't sell a dream, but not a crazy dream. We should be accurate, but let's not be super rigid. So I think a lot of that is like bringing both parties ultimately back to the customer. Like, how is this going to affect the customer? How are you going to inspire the customer, but at the same time, set realistic expectations? So that's part of the stakeholder management. And then getting stakeholder buy-in is the same feedback that I had for sales enablement. Loop your stakeholders in, make them feel like they're part of the process, build everything in the open, and give credit when you launch something. Don't just say, hey, I launched this great thing. Call out people specifically on the sales team, product team for their contributions as well.
Yeah, that's great. We'll send out this Q&A document for any of the questions that weren't answered in tonight's event. But Henry, thank you so much for spending the time to talk with our Students at Marketing Association and also for Andertech. I hope everyone on this call found it very helpful, and definitely this 1 hour event does not do justice to Henry's PMM channel. He goes very in depth into go-to-market strategy, B2B and B2C product marketing. He even critiques like products and websites from a product marketing lens. definitely check out his channel. I have watched probably all his videos. You know, you guys definitely enjoy it. Thank you so much. I'm gonna stop the recording now.